Welcome and hello everyone. The Coordinating Center for the National Drug Early Warning System, sponsored by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, welcomes you to this, our October 2018 NDUS Presents webinar. The NDUS PI is Dr. Eric Wish and our NIDA project scientist is Moira O'Brien. I believe that Moira is with us in the audience this afternoon, but unfortunately Dr. Wish got called away to visit a sick relative, so he's unable to join us this afternoon, but he sends his regards and his hearty hellos to you all. My name is Erin Artijani, and I am the NDUS co-I, and Barbara Kerr, Marwa Al-Nasir, and I will be the facilitators for this webinar. We are all a part of the NDUS Coordinating Center team. For those who are interested, you can find detailed information about NDUS, recordings of our prior webinars, and invitations to future webinars on our website at www.ndus.org. That's also where you will find a recording of this webinar and a copy of our presentation about a week to 2 weeks after this event. You also will find instructions for how to join our NDUS network and participate in ongoing discussions with more than 1,100 experts and concerned citizens from across the United States and many other countries. We encourage you, if you're not already a member, to join us there for discussions about drug policy, toxicology, epidemiology, and vaping, and many other current issues about drugs and drug trends. We developed the NDUS Presents webinars to work with leading substance abuse experts to explore emerging drugs and timely drug-related topics. This month, we are highlighting the eDark Trends project conducted by researchers at Wright State University to analyze Cryptomarket data on novel synthetic opioids. Today, we are very excited and fortunate to be joined by two experts, Dr. Raminta Daniulaityte, Associate Director for the Center for Interventions, Treatment, and Addictions Research at Wright State, and Dr. Francois Lamy, currently based in the Department of Society and Health at Mahidol University in Thailand. Thank you for joining us from such a long way, Dr. Lamy. The webinar will last approximately 90 minutes, and we encourage you to submit questions during and after the presentation. Please, however, post your questions in the Q&A box rather than raising your hand or anything else. And we will hold a brief Q&A session after the presentation is complete and both of our presenters have spoken. Our presenters, Barbara, Marwa, and I, will do our best to get to all of your questions. And as I said earlier, a recording of this webinar and a copy of the slides will be made available on our website, www.ndus.org, www.ndews.org. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope that you enjoy this webinar. Dr. Daniulaityte, it's all yours.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share our findings and our research with all of you today. First, I wanted to acknowledge our funding that we received from NIDA to conduct this research study and other research related to fentanyl outbreaks in our area. Before I start, I also wanted to acknowledge our research team. I wanted to emphasize that our team is truly interdisciplinary team. We wanted, first of all, to thank to our co-principal investigator, Dr. Amit Shet, who is a director at the Ohio Center of Excellence in Knowledge-Enabled Computing at Wright State University. We also wanted to acknowledge our co-investigators, Dr. Robert Carlson, Dr. Ramzi Nahas, and Dr. Monica Barat. And we also wanted to thank our graduate research assistants who contributed their work to this project, Usha Lokala, Ur Kursunsu, and Jason Rodden. So just a brief outline of our presentation. We will start with a brief background to describe the epidemiological situation related to novel synthetic opioids very briefly. Then we will talk about dark web environment to give some background knowledge and information to our listeners. Then we will describe the methods, data collection, processing, analysis methods that we are using for our study. And then we will discuss our preliminary results looking into the types of novel synthetic opioids that are being advertised And we will more closely look into the changes that occurred over the past 6 to 7 months. And then we will conclude with some concluding remarks and implications and further research plans. So just to share the slide, this is just a reminder about the harms that are being caused by synthetic opioids, novel synthetic opioids in the United States. As most of you know, we are experiencing unprecedented increases in opioid-related overdose mortality in the United States. And these increases are fueled by illicit fentanyl and other novel synthetic opioids. Now, when we use novel synthetic opioids, that includes a very broad range of substances. But broadly speaking, we categorize them, and that's how most of the literature is categorizing it. We're talking about non-pharmaceutical fentanyl. The next group is fentanyl analogs, which is a group that includes many different types of chemicals, such as carfentanil, acetylfentanyl, furanylfentanyl, and many others. And the third group is other novel synthetic opioids. They are not structurally related to fentanyl. However, they appear very frequently in mixtures with other fentanyl analogs. And their distribution is also similar. So we're including this group as well. There is great variation in potency and other pharmacological features of these drugs. However, early warning systems are not always very effective in capturing these chemicals and trends of these emerging substances in a timely manner. We know that over the past several years, crypto markets emerged as an important and increasingly important source of illicit substances, including fentanyl and other novel synthetic opioids. And the premise of our approach and our study is that we want to use crypto market data as a new type of epidemiological surveillance tool for early identification of emerging patterns and trends. But before we go to tell you more about our study, we wanted to provide some background information about deep web environment and crypto markets. And Dr. Lamy will take over from this point on. Dr. Lamy used to work at Wright State University with us for a few years, and then he moved to Thailand and is a faculty at Mahidol University right now, but we continue to work together on this and other projects. So Francois, your turn.
Thank you, Raminta. So before describing the methods we use for study, I will give you a short overview of the deep web environment and a description of what are crypto markets. So you may know that most of our everyday internet, so Facebook, Wikipedia, etc., also called the surface web, and it represents only 4% of the internet. This section of the internet has been indexed by search engines such as Google, Yahoo, Bing, and is publicly available. The deep web consists of any web page that haven't been indexed by those search engines. These pages are only accessible to authorized persons and store personal or organizational data. For example, your private photo from your Facebook account, your bank detail, hopefully. And at the bottom of the deep web, you have what is called the dark web. Is a zone of internet where anonymity is guaranteed. Compared to most of surface web websites, IP addresses are not collected there. And inside the darknet, you can find crypto markets or darknets. So crypto markets provides an anonymous zone where buyers and sellers can trade illegal goods. This anonymity is accomplished via special software, such as Tor, I2P, or Freenet. This kind of software provides a specialized encryption and prevents the transmission of IP address or any other information that might reveal your location or identity. Each crypto market has one or several levels of security, from asking for username, password, or it can go to asking to solve CAPTCHA every 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. Transaction anonymity is guaranteed by the use of cryptocurrency. You all heard about Bitcoins. Actually, there is almost 1,800 cryptocurrencies, but on Cryptomarket, the most commonly used is Bitcoin, Monero, or Milli-Bitcoin. The first well-known crypto market, Silk Road, was raided by the FBI in October 2013. Since then, over 100 crypto markets have been created. Crypto markets are websites where illegal transactions are facilitated, therefore they are highly unstable. So the average lifespan of a crypto market is 8 months. Some last less than a couple of weeks. Some other, like a Dream Market, is still active after 5 years in operation. The 3 main reasons for crypto market to be closed is law enforcement raid. We will talk a little bit more about that later. Exit scam is when the administrator of a crypto market collect a lot of transaction in Bitcoin and just decide to close the market. And all market can be closed for security reason or voluntarily. During the summer 2017, you might have seen the news, Operation Bayonet and Grave Sack. It was a joint international task force, took down Alpha Bay Market and ENSA and infiltrate ENSA. Those 2 markets were 2 of the 3 most important crypto markets at that time. It has been followed by a lot of arrests, and since then the remaining markets are unstable. Lots of the markets, the access is inconsistent, they have additional security measure and they adapt their security over time. Actually, there are approximately 30 crypto market actives. The top 3 crypto markets are Dream Market, Wall Street Market, and Point Troika Free Market. Dream Market is the most important with 147, roughly 150,000 ads. You can notice that for all crypto markets, almost half of their ads are drug. So that's the most important part of crypto market. So each crypto market offers a variety of products, from drugs to fake passports, software licenses, buying thousands like for your Instagram account, counterfeit watch, hacking tools, etc., etc., etc. Each crypto market has its own category, but most of them offer the same type of product. If you navigate through crypto markets, you will see that they are mimicking the overall architecture of mainstream online shops such as eBay and Amazon, with search tool and information on each vendor and product. You can see on this ad at the bottom right that this is 10 gram synthetic cannabinoids. The vendor is High Society UK. He has sold 460 articles. His trust is 4.88 out of 5. So it reminds you certainly of what you can find on eBay. So despite differences from one crypto market to another, drug constitutes the main product advertised and sold on crypto market. Drugs are categorized in subclasses. Here you can see barbiturate, benzos, cannabis, etc. And each subclass divided into subcategory. For example, for the opioid, which is the main interest for us, is divided into 10 categories. You can see buprenorphine, codeine, etc., etc. That is to the customer to find the product that he's most interested in quickly. So crypto market can provide, as you can see, valuable information concerning type and price of substances available, and also concerning new emerging substance and all trends. Several studies and projects have already investigated crypto markets to provide macro-level analysis of the crypto market drugs trade by using manual data collection and generally for limited time period. Conversely to these previous studies, the eDarkTrend project aimed to develop a semi-automated platform to collect and analyze crypto markets data focusing on fentanyl analogs, and novel synthetic opioids. It also aims to identify new substances and trends emerging in the crypto market environment. So I will describe how we achieve the result we will present to you today. So currently we are working with two data sets. The main data set is collected from Dreammarket since March 2018. As you can imagine, we selected Dreammarket because that is the largest crypto market since last summer. And the second data set is constituted by archive data from the Agora market that was the most important market in the year 2014 and 2015. The Agora data were downloaded from the Grams archive available on Gwen.net with many other datasets. So before collecting data from Dreammarket and other crypto markets, we had to establish strict security measures because we were going on collecting data on the darknet. Those security measures were reviewed and approved by the Wright State University Information Security Office and the University Legal Department. Once this measure established, our colleagues at the Kno.e.sis lab developed a crypto market dedicated web crawler using the ScrapPy framework. So in brief, a crawler, it's also called a spider, is a bot that indexed the content, a part or the totality of the content of one of several websites. Google, when Google indexes web page, he uses a crawler. So crawlers output are raw hypertext markup language files that we had to pass into a workable CSV format before we can process further. So the crawler was pre-programmed to collect content of the opioid and research chemical sections of Dreammarket. Why research chemical? Because some of the synthetic opioid like U-47-700 were not necessarily placed into the opioid section. So for each ads we collected, the crawler collect information about product advertisements. So here, if you look at the pictures on the right, 30 milligram oxycodone, 500 pills, it collects that, the vendor names, price in Bitcoin, US dollar, where it ships to, the destination where it ships from, escrow is a security measure, they have this security measure, product description, and terms and conditions. And recently we start collecting the comments from customer about the product. Thank you. When the HTML data pass, the product advertisement are curated and processed by the name entity recognition algorithm. So the name entity recognition algorithm use natural language tools such as natural language toolkit from Python and regular expression associated with semantic web technologies. So based on the drug abuse ontologies that our team developed since 2013, I would say. So an ontology is a formal model that it's a kind of a catalog that refer all the terms and concepts and their relationships. So the drug abuse ontology is a kind of catalog of all the concepts and terms related to drug use and abuse. So the NER has for objective to identify substances, dosage, form, like powder, nasal spray, patch, brand name, slang name, misspelling, and resolve other ambiguities such as China white, fent instead of fentanyl, few F instead of furanyl fentanyl, etc. So you can see that's some example of how the NER work. For example, if the advertisement is 14 grams high-grade BTH, the NER will provide us the data black tar heroin for the substance name, it's an opioid. 14 gram, there is no form indicated, so it would be NA, and by default, it's a non-pharmaceutical, NPF. Another example could be 75 microgram Denpax Georgesic patch. Here the nerd will recognize the fentanyl, 0.000075 gram per hour, it's a patch, and it's a pharmaceutical product. So finally, once all the ads are processed by the nerds, the data are stored on Wright State University Kno.e.sis server. The data can be then extracted and visualized using the Kibana plugin from Elasticsearch. We can also extract numerical data that we use for this presentation based on Kibana. Qualitative analysis of product description and terms and conditions are conducted using QDM Miner to explore product marketing themes, some of which will be presented by Raminta in the following sections. Thank you.
I will present some preliminary results and then Francois will continue presenting other parts of the presentation as well. So we will look into what type of novel synthetic opioids we found on Thailand, and we will compare to archived Agora market to just get some perspective of the changes that occurred over time. So overall, all the collected Thailand data, as we mentioned before, we started, for this presentation, we used data that was collected from March 22nd to August 15. So we have 20 data points, which means that the crawler was launched successfully 20 times and collected data that we needed. As Francois mentioned, data collection targeted opioid and research chemical categories. Our preliminary exploration suggested that these were the appropriate categories to target for us, and buyers usually try to be, sellers usually try to be accurate by classifying the products into appropriate categories so that the buyers would find them, would be easier for buyers to find. So we collected a total of more than 80,000 ads over the specified time period. However, as you see from this table, fentanyl analog, and other novel synthetic opioid-related ads comprised a little bit more than 5% of all collected data. There was some ads that were irrelevant, so they were discarded. There was 13% of ads that were misclassifications or related to other substances. There was a large proportion of ads that were for other opioids, in particular heroin, oxycodone, and buprenorphine. We were seeing quite a few ads for buprenorphine type products. So now looking more specifically into fentanyl ads, over the specified time period, we collected 934 ads that were specifically for fentanyl. Majority of those ads were for non-pharmaceutical fentanyl. So we had to disambiguate to differentiate pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical fentanyl. And as you see, most ads were for non-pharmaceutical type fentanyl. Now when looking into shipment, most of those ads advertised shipment worldwide, or about 25% advertised shipment to the United States. So in other words, most of them were actually accessible to consumers in the United States. Now comparing fentanyl-related ads from the spring of 2018, which is dream market data, to the spring of 2015, which was our archived Agora data that we were able to obtain, we see that there was an increase in the number of ads, which is this number represents average monthly average of ads not during the specified time period. So there were more ads in the spring of 2018 compared to 3 years before. Now, looking more specifically into fentanyl analogs, we identified 581 ads that were specifically for fentanyl analogs. And again, most of those ads indicated shipment worldwide. About 14% were specifying that they would ship to US. So again, most of those ads were accessible for shipment to the United States. Looking more specifically into what types of fentanyl analogs we identified on Dreammarket, you see as furanyl fentanyl was the most commonly seen on the Dreammarket. But we saw many other types of fentanyl analogs, methoxyacetyl fentanyl, carfentanil. There were 52 ads that we identified that were advertised carfentanil. And there were some analogs that really we don't have much information about yet. For example, orthomethoxyfuranyl fentanyl. This appears to be a newer substance that we saw on the Dreammarket. Now comparing data for Dreammarket spring 2018 to Agora data from spring of 2015, you see that we have greater number of ads for fentanyl analogs, but more importantly, we have greater variety of analogs that are being advertised. In the spring of 2015, you see there was quite a few ads for acetylfentanyl. Those ads declined, the numbers declined in 2018 and for acetylfentanyl, but there are many other analogs that were not present in 2015 that are being advertised in 2018. Now looking more into other novel synthetic opioids, we have about 548 ads that advertise other novel synthetic opioids. Again, most of them ads advertise shipment worldwide, and the source of shipment or they indicate they're shipping from China or Hong Kong. So the types of the fentanyl, other synthetic opioids that we were seeing, as you see, U48800 is the most commonly advertised, and most of these analogs are replacements or analogs for U47700. The difference between the spring of 2018 and the spring of 2015, you see that we are seeing new types of substances, and some of the substances that were advertised in the spring of 2015 were not present in our current data set. We looked into the vendor activity to try to see the lifespan and the number of vendors that were selling these drugs. So overall for fentanyl and fentanyl analogs, there were 86 vendors that were identified. However, only 3 selling at each time point, so not many vendors selling at each time point. There were 29 highly active vendors for fentanyl and fentanyl analogs that were selling more than that had more than 20 ads. For novel synthetic opioids, there were 13 unique vendors since March 2018, 2 to 5 vendors at each time point, and only 2 highly active vendors for other novel synthetic opioids that we see for this time period. Now we looked also into the amounts that were being advertised on Dream Market. And you see that retail level amounts were more commonly advertised for fentanyl and analogs, while wholesale amounts were more common for other novel synthetic opioids. And I wanted to give some examples to just demonstrate how these drugs are being advertised on the Dream Market. So usually, sellers very frequently emphasize purity and potency of their products, and they often include warnings about potential overdose risks and some suggestions about safer usage. So this is an ad for carfentanil, and the ad emphasizes that my supplier says purity is over 99%. I do not have lab test results. However, the ad emphasizes, I do know this is very strong stuff. Please be careful and no unexperienced users. Now for the newer substances that less commonly known substances, what we see is the sellers try to compare them to other better known products. So for example, an ad for pure 4-fluoroisobutyrfentanyl, the ad explains that this product is similar to furanylfentanyl. Comparing to furanylfentanyl, this product provides longer lasting effects. It's also described to be more euphoric, with potency and dosing similar to furanylfentanyl. And now Francois will continue to tell you more about the changes that happened between March and August of 2018 with Dream Market data.
Thank once again, Raminta. So I will present some of the major changes that happened since March. So the most important change for us was when Dream Market decided to ban fentanyl and other analogs and carfentanil in mid-May of this year. Since then, several other crypto markets seems to have followed Dream Market bans. I can tell you because I watched this, I went to see Point Troika Free Market 1 hour ago. You can still buy fentanyl, carfentanil on this market. This is the only one, as to the best of our knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, that is still selling fentanyl. You can find 1 kilogram acetyl fentanyl for $10,000 on Point Troika right now. The Dream Market decision to ban fentanyl may be related to the increased effort deployed by law enforcement in the past few months to shut down crypto markets. However, this is not the first time that crypto markets decided to ban some substances. In the fall of 2016, Alphabet Markets, that was the leader of crypto market at that time, decided to buy carfentanil, and it was followed by ENSA soon after. So one of the main consequences of the ban is a decrease in fentanyl and fentanyl analogs ad. So we, as you can see, we observe a sharp decrease in the number of ads for analogs. During May, the fentanyl ads has almost completely disappeared since then. We also observe a sharp decline in the number of ads related to non-pharmaceutical fentanyl. In most of the case, the term fentanyl, in most of the product descriptions, the term fentanyl is not openly mentioned after Dream Market fentanyl ban. However, pharmaceuticals, fentanyl, sodiorogesic, Fentora, that is generally in the form of patch, is still authorized. So we can still see those ads on Dream Market at the moment. Conversely, the number of ads related to other novel synthetic opioids is increasing since March and seems not to have been targeted by the fentanyl ban. But the number remains still small compared to what we have observed for fentanyl. In comparison, the number of ads for heroin has remained stable over time. So that would be a kind of a good news, because less fentanyl is therefore good news. But wait a sec, because we have observed a few, how can I say, strange things since. The first notable change is the number of ads for oxycodone. So this number remains stable in March, April, and May, and then increase since beginning of June. So before the ban, if you can go to the next slide, thank you. Before the ban, a portion of the oxycodone-related ads advertised product pressed and laced with fentanyl. The most common combination was 30 milligram oxycodone or oxycodone pressed with 1 milligram of fentanyl. After the ban, mention of fentanyl in pressed oxycodone completely disappeared, but analysis of the collected data indicates that 10% of all oxycodone-related ads contains the term press and contains the term press and does not contain the term fentanyl. Based on data analysis, the increase in the number of oxycodone ads seems unrelated to the increase of pressed oxycodone ads. So the question is, why do we observe this increase in genuine pharmaceutical oxycodone pills just after Dreammarket's ban? Is it because sellers who used to advertise fentanyl and analogs turns to oxycodone? Is it because there is a large number of new vendors advertising oxycodone? Or is it a way to sell fentanyl in a hidden manner? We don't know yet, and we need more data before being able to give any answer. In the same vein, we observe change in the description of two already ambiguous products, China White and synthetic heroin. Before the ban, the Dreammarket fentanyl ban, this product clearly include mentions of fentanyl, as you can see in the ad, in the product description just below. Mentions of fentanyl or the specific analog used to prepare the product. So here in the ads, you can see this listing is for synthetic heroin, also known as China White. So we are not sure what means China White and what differentiates synthetic heroin and China White. This is a mix of furanyl, fentanyl, and Mahidol. So after the ban, such mention disappeared in the same way as for oxycodone. Most of the China White and synthetic heroin ads start to emphasize that their products are fentanyl free. You can see in the upper right corner, 3 gram China White heroin, 99% pure, no fentanyl. So we start looking in the number of synthetic heroin ads over time, and it appears that the fentanyl ban had no real impact on the volume of synthetic heroin advertised, which would suggest that synthetic heroin do not contain fentanyl or any analogs. Conversely, the number of China White ads have shown fluctuation over the same period of time. It sharply declined after the ban, but tend to increase over the summer. So it's still unclear if one or both of these substances still contain fentanyl. But we start investigating more by looking at buyers' comment. So what we realize is first, buyers are probably contacting vendors through private channel to obtain exact information regarding synthetic heroin or China White. The second is, as you can read from the highlighted comment, it appears that at least for synthetic heroines, these products contain analogs. However, the exact composition is not explicitly provided by the vendor. You can see which integrity is a reply that it was an analog and that they are sorry, but I shouldn't buy from them. So if this would be also consistent with the increasing usage of special code words regarding the potency of synthetic heroin and China White, some vendor may obfuscate the exact composition of their products, but gives hint by giving tolerance and experience level, as you can see here. For example, level X is for street fentanyl user, while level 5 would be for non-opiate user. But once again, we can't know the real composition of those products, which would be problematic because this can have direct consequences for buyers who can end up consuming more potent products than they were expected, increasing the risk of overdose. And finally, the last change, this is a more political change. China has progressively banned 175 chemicals associated to the manufacturing of fentanyl and its analog, which disrupt the production of fentanyl. If you look at the post on the lower left corner, you can see that Dexuschem, one of the biggest seller from China, complained about that, but he also explains that they are actually looking for option in other countries in Asia to ship or to produce fentanyl again. The other part is related to the trade war between US and China that seems to have repercussion in the shipment. But once again, the seller seems to find solution to continue shipping to the United States. All these changes tend to exemplify the instability of this market and the challenge inherent to studying crypto market. So I will leave Raminta conclude this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Francois. So we wanted to summarize and conclude our preliminary findings. As you've seen, fentanyl analogs, and other synthetic opioids represent about a little bit more than 5% of all opioid-related ads on Dream Market. Almost 90% of all fentanyl and other novel synthetic opioid ads indicated potential shipping to the United States. Compared to archived Agora data in 2015, Dream Market data from the spring of 2018 show greater number and variety of fentanyl and other novel synthetic opioid products. So as you see, there were significant declines in fentanyl and fentanyl analog product ads after Dream Market banned fentanyl and fentanyl analog sales in May 2018. However, other novel synthetic opioid-related ads increased over the same time period. We also saw more oxycodone products after the ban, but also less certainty about fentanyl-type additives in fake or pressed products. There was also more ambiguity about synthetic heroin and China White after the ban, and also potential increase in reliance on encrypted private messaging about banned products. Overall, we find that crypto markets are extremely rich and fascinating data source for monitoring novel synthetic substance availability. Such information could be used to issue timely alerts about emerging substances and other trends. Crypto market bans of fentanyl products might lead to reduced access to such products or to greater numbers of unsuspecting users becoming exposed to contaminated products. Continued research is needed to understand how crypto markets, vendors, and buyers adapt to these changes and restrictions. Just a few words about the challenges. Cybersecurity concerns are always an issue. We had to work very closely and with the university cybersecurity team to make sure that they were comfortable with us doing the project. Cryptomarket instability is another challenge. You know, one day Cryptomarket is running full speed, the next day it's closed and no longer there. Developing web crawlers for crypto markets can be challenging as well, because different crypto markets may have different security measures that need to be taken into account when developing the crawlers. We want to emphasize that these are preliminary findings. Data are limited to one crypto market. However, we are developing crawlers to collect data from additional crypto markets that are currently offering fentanyl and other substances. Product review data have not yet been consistently captured to improve product identification and disambiguation techniques. So this is our next task that we are gonna look into. Additional research is needed to assess the trends in other opioid sales on crypto markets. As you've seen, sales of other opioids is really, ads for other opioids is really abundant. And further research is needed to assess the relationship between the crypto market data on novel synthetic opioid trends and changes in opioid-related overdose mortality trends and other indicators of synthetic opioid use in the United States. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Daniulaityte and Dr. Lamy. We really appreciate your presentation and overview of eDARK trends and what you've been learning so far from the first crypto market you've been looking at. And certainly you have provided us with a great deal of valuable information, which I'm sure has engendered a lot of thought and discussion amongst our viewers. So I want to take a moment now to turn to our Q&A. And so I have here a question from an attendee who asks, do you match the text of the ads to the photos of the drugs that are being advertised?
So I answered the question. We do not collect pictures for security reason.
Okay.
Because some pictures contain graphic material, as you can imagine. When in the darknet, you can find the worst and worse than the worst. So we do not collect photos, so we cannot do that.
Okay, thank you for that.
For automated analysis, we don't do that because we don't collect the data, but you know, when you log into the dark web and you can that helps you to develop identification techniques to better match the real substances.
Okay, looks like we have a number of questions coming in now, so that's great. I'm glad you all are submitting your questions. So our next question is, have you followed poison center exposures to any new products being sold on the sites you've researched?
When developing drug abuse ontology, that's one of our tools, how we identify the new, enriched our data and techniques to identify new substances. We try to use all available resources that are out there. Yeah, Francois, you want to add?
Is the question related to, I don't know if that person can give, I'm gonna read. View of poison exposure. Are those poison center exposure, I'm sorry, I'm not from the US, but are those poison exposure centers dispatched in the US? And does that person ask, do you compare what is on the crypto market and what those center finds? Or does that person want to know, are we using the data from poison centers to inform our ontology? So I can't answer the question now. In fact, I'm not sure how.
We use, when we create the ontology and add substance names, We look into DEA data, CDC data, end use data, whatever end use is sharing, we are trying to use that as well. So to make it more precise when we identify the substances.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how does the crawler know what analogs to look for? Do you program a list of fentanyl analogs in the code, or does it pick up new analogs that you never knew about?
Okay, thank you for this question. I will answer if I may, Raminta. So the crawler does not target anything. The crawler targets product description, and it repeats the same collection for each pages of the opioid section and research chemical section. The NERS, the name entity recognition, aim to identify any analogs that are contained in the product advertisement. So all these analogs, there is two ways. Either the analogs belongs to the list of fentanyl analogs we have in the ontology, and that's fairly easy for the NER to find it, or the analogs, all analogs, most of the analogs, I would say, contain FENTA inside the NER. You will have phenyl fentanyl, you will have acetyl fentanyl, you will have carfentanyl. They all contain that section, that root. So the NER will be able to capture all words that contain fenta inside in the word. So that's how we can collect more names and more analogs. I hope I have been clear. It's 1 a.m. Here, so I start to be maybe not that clear anymore.
All right. The next question is, did any of the ads you reviewed indicate the seller accepted non-cryptocurrency payment methods such as MoneyGram, Western Union? No. Okay.
Never.
Yeah.
Because one of the main reasons is that since many crypto market has exit scam, now what's happened is that the administrator of the crypto market holds the money. So if you are transferring the money to the crypto market, it would be easily to find where they are and who they are. So no, never.
So we have a question from another viewer who wants to know if you collect any data on the buyers, like if they're urban, suburban, rural, and that kind of information.
I had a few, if you shipment to or shipment from. Shipment from, we had, there was a few ads where it was written Los Angeles, Florida, Sydney
okay.
in Australia. But we can't know precisely at a precise level from where it is shipped, no.
Okay. We have another viewer who would like to know if the code for the crawlers is open source, if it's something you can share.
I'm not the one who have designed the crawler, so that's a good question. I hope it will be pretty soon. We need to ask software engineers that design the crawler, but I would say yes, not now, but I would say yes. It should be, by the way. But it's, you know, one of the things with crawler, I think when we start the project, I don't know for you, Raminta, but I thought crawling would be okay, would be fairly straightforward and easy. And it's the most difficult part, in fact, because each time the crypto market modifies the architecture of their website, you need to change the crawler. Each time they have new security measure, you need to change the crawler. So, and for each crypto market, you have almost to build a dedicated crawler. So even if we were able to share and I hope we will be able to share the code for the crawler, I'm not sure it would be that useful. Or you need to be a skilled computer scientist to change it, to adapt it, I would say.
All right, thank you very much. So another attendee says, thank you for sharing this superb research and analysis, and wants to know, have you seen indications that any of the other major markets are moving to prohibit fentanyl and its analogs?
Sorry, Raminta, once again, from what I have seen so far, I try to go and visit once a week, at least once a week, crypto markets to see if anything is changing. At the moment, the only crypto market that is still, I visit 6 crypto markets generally. The only crypto market that is still selling fentanyl, and etc. is Point Troika free market. Most of them, they are still selling fentanyl patch, pharmaceutical fentanyl, but all others have banned fentanyl. Silk Road free, Imperial Market, Rapture Market, Wall Street Market, and Dream Market has banned fentanyl. Non-pharmaceutical fentanyl, sorry.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, it seems as if the crypto markets are complex and costly to set up. If the markets have an average life of 8 months, do you think new markets coming online are the old ones rebranded, or are they entirely new distribution points? I don't know if this is something you can comment on, but do you have any theories or thoughts there?
Okay, so one of the points is that each vendor will have to pay a fee. They have to come with, it depends from one market to another, but they have to pay a fee to be vendor, first of all, to establish. Each transactions going through a crypto market, there is a fee, again. Concerning, is that old owner, old administrator creating new crypto markets? I don't know. I can't answer that question. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure anyone can, maybe someone but can answer, but I don't.
Okay, just a couple final questions here. The next one is, have you found any ads related to using diphenhydramine or Benadryl as an adulterant? Do you remember?
I don't see that.
That one? No.
Nah.
Okay. And our last question here, oh, somebody just snuck another one in. So our next question is, what has your research identified about trends in advertisements for the purchase of retail amounts, small quantity amounts of fentanyl or fentanyl analogs? What are the implications of purchase of retail amounts of fentanyl or fentanyl analogs for the market in terms of individuals seeking fentanyl or analogs as their drug of choice?
Yeah, we had a slide showing the different types of amounts for fentanyl analogs and heroin in comparison. And I think the largest proportion of all fentanyl ads advertise small amounts that would be considered retail amounts. And potentially, you know, for one reason is people with the new substances, people probably want to sample in some cases the products and to see what the effects are. On the other hand, buying larger supplies online does not always mean wholesale. People like to stockpile. Some prior research shows that buying in larger amounts meant that people are buying social supply or stockpiling the drugs so they don't need to buy too many times. But for individual users, that's definitely who are knowledgeable and experienced. It's obviously one of the sources for individual to obtain drugs for their individual usage. I don't know if I answered the question.
I would say there is some, I was looking one time, I found some comments of buyers saying that they were buying and they would be selling after because that was top product. What what is difficult to understand is what is a normal dose of fentanyl now. And from one analogs to another, the dose may vary. If I remember well, the LD50 of fentanyl is 2 milligrams. So if you buy 20 grams, you have like the equivalent of 10,000 doses. So the retail is completely, I don't know if we can really speak of individual dose when someone is buying 10 grams. 10 grams is quite massive when you're speaking of fentanyl. It's even worse if you are speaking of carfentanil. So I suppose some people are stocking, as Raminta just explained, stocking for themselves and for their friends, that's for sure. But I would also, I'm not sure, and I need more data to be able to say if it's true or not, but I'm pretty sure some people, and many people have been arrested lately because they were dealing fentanyl that they bought from the darknet. So what is the proportion of people buying for themselves and to retail? We don't know, but yeah, there's certainly people buying for dealing after fentanyl. I don't know if I have answered the question.
Okay, thank you. So we have one last question here from somebody who is just curious about who you consider your primary audience to be for your research.
End use.
End use, yes, thank you very much. We're glad to hear that.
Policymakers, anybody involved in public health research and policy, toxicology labs that need to think about the methods that how they need to adjust their drug testing methodologies to capture emerging substances.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our Q&A section, and I hope that folks who have joined us today will just take a couple moments to do a quick poll for us and share your feedback about today's webinar and your suggestions for topics for future webinars. And as you're looking at that, I just want to tell you about our next webinar coming up, which will be on Tuesday, November the 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And it will feature presentations by Dr. Dan Ciccarone and Dr. Sarah Mars speaking about risk and resilience in the U.S. heroin epidemic. So they'll be sharing results of research they've been doing at a number of different sites across the country. So we're looking forward to that one as well. And we will post information to the End Use Network about registering for that. And so thanks again to everyone who joined us today and participated in our Q&A. We really appreciate that and look forward to seeing you again in November. And thank you once again, Dr. Lamy and Dr. Daniulaityte. We really appreciate the effort you put into your presentation and all of the information you shared with everyone today. And we will put a complete recording of this webinar and a copy of the slides from the presentation on the End Use website, www.enduse.org, www.ndews.org. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day and a good rest of the week. And looks like we're just about done here with the poll as well. So I will go ahead and end that, and we will see everyone next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.